I used to wonder if my story really mattered. Maybe you felt that too. Like your experience was too messy, too personal, or not far enough along to share. But here's what I've learned. Your story is your superpower. It's not just what you've been through, it's how you got through it. And when you know how to tell that story with purpose, you don't just inspire, you connect, you serve, and you start making the impact you were born to make. That's why I created Becoming a Storyteller and Creating Impact. It's a self-paced course to help you craft your story, speak with confidence, and start using your voice to truly make a difference. Whether you're a new coach, a speaker, or someone who just knows they were meant for more, this is your starting point. It's going to change how you see yourself and your story. Check out the link in the podcast notes and get registered today. Don't wait to make a difference. What if the very path you thought would bring peace ended up pulling you further from your purpose? What if everything you were searching for in the world could only be found in surrender? Today's story is one of radical transformation, grace, and a God who never stops pursuing us. Hey friends, welcome back to It's Your Story to Tell. I'm your host, Megan Babcock, and I'm beyond excited for this conversation. This conversation has taken a lot to actually get to the point of recording it. So I am just so thankful for today's guest and her story that she's going to share. Welcome, Jasmine. You are so amazing in how you stayed close, kept pursuing this, and God has a really important message I know that you're going to share with our listeners today.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, this has been one of those meetups. Like, we did a phone call, right? And I don't know, I guess life just happened, but we're here.
We're here finally. I think we said it was like a year in the making. So when these delays happen, I know that it is God. Like, that there is something here that is going to be so important and valuable for at least one of our listeners, but I bet a lot of listeners. So Jasmine is a Christ advocate, author, entrepreneur, and mama of 4. So pretty busy, I guess, right? And before she stepped into all of that, she walked a very different path. And her journey of redemption is definitely one I'm excited for her to share. So before we dive into all the things that you are doing today, could you take us back to moments in your life where you were searching for fulfillment in places that looked powerful, but left you feeling empty? And then we'll just see where we go from there.
Okay, that sounds great. And you are right. I was looking for my purpose, and that did take me down a dark path. They say be careful what you ask for. So yeah, like when I was growing up, I had a great childhood. I was very happy for the most part, but I was a '90s baby, and you have Disney, you have magic, you have all of these things, you had Charm, Harry Potter, and I loved everything about that. And I remember hearing myself say, oh, I would love to be, to have powers, to be a witch one day, And it wasn't until COVID when that plagued the world, and I came across an app called Clubhouse, and I was able to commingle with witches, and I got myself into witchcraft, which is still crazy to this day, but it was real, what turned into just, oh, that looks cool, is that even possible, to actually being able to do it was really like an eye opener. But it wasn't until like I almost died 3 times where I was like, all right, maybe this is not meant for me to do. And it is by the grace of God that I do have my family, because my daughter is what my husband, but my daughter is what truly saved me and put me back on my path with God.
Wow. Almost died 3 times. Can you tell us a little bit about that? That sounds really traumatic. I mean, after 1 time, but 3. What was going on there?
So I'm not a very sickly person. It's rare for me to get sick, but for an entire year, from the top of the year to the bottom of the year, I was sick. Like I was like, it was like really sick. I caught salmonella while I was in Mexico during my anniversary, and I looked like I was about 6, 7 months pregnant, and like my mom was really really afraid for me because I like my stomach looked huge. I couldn't keep anything down, fevers, and the doctors was like, this is serious, like you can die from salmonella if not caught early and you're on treatments and everything like that. And I felt like I was dying, and I told my mom, I was like, whatever I need to do, just just put me in the right direction because like I feel horrible. And then I was able to get past that. Then I caught COVID, and I caught COVID in Mexico. I went to Mexico again. I love Mexico, but
It's
Mexico
giving
got
you
to take me out. But I went on a witch retreat, and it was awesome because like I never win anything for my birthday. And that particular time I won a free trip to Mexico to go to this witch retreat. The only thing I had to pay for was my plane ticket. And normally going to Mexico is about like maybe $200, $300. My ticket was 600 and something dollars. And you would think I would be like, that's too much, maybe I shouldn't go. But I figured out how to get out there. And on my way to my flight, I felt like I got hit by a truck. Honestly, I felt horrible, but I'm like, oh, it's probably my allergies. I'm gonna be fine. So I get on the plane and I take a nap because I'm like, I'm just probably just sleep deprived because I was up all night trying to get my hair done to prepare. And I get on the plane, take my nap. It's a 2 hour and some change flight. I wake up and I'm just like, whoa, I don't think I've ever been that sick. I was sick. And it's hot. It was so hot in Mexico. It was in July. It was really, really hot. And anything and everything that could go wrong happened. We couldn't get our hotel rooms right away. There was a mix up. So I'm sitting over there like feeling like death warmed up. And I'm calling my mom like, oh my gosh, like I think I might need to come home because this is just not working out. And we finally was able to go to our room, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna go take a nap for a little bit. So I get to my hotel room. We all had our own separate rooms. And that's actually when I encountered sleep paralysis. I haven't had that in a very, very long time. And I literally felt like somebody was dragging me slowly down to the edge of the bed. And when I finally woke up, I was in the position of where I was being drugged to. So it actually happened. It was actually happening.
wow.
And I lost my taste and all of that. And that's when I knew that I had COVID. And I'm like, I'm stuck here in Mexico, and with COVID, So when the party that I was with left, I was left there to kind of fend for myself. I was in quarantine in the hotel. They were not giving me food like that. I constantly kept having to come out of my room because I'm like, well, if y'all not gonna feed me, then this is my way of threatening y'all to feed me. I'm gonna come out of my room so that you can feed me.
Hmm.
And I was telling my mom, like, you have to put me somewhere else. Because if I stay here, they're going to starve me. Like, I'm not going to make it. Because, like, I'm barely eating as it is, and they're not providing me with the things that I need. Because they're scared,
Right.
which is understandable, but it's like, I'm still human. And so my mom was able to bring my husband down to Mexico, and we were put into an Airbnb. And in that case, that I was great after that. And then my last was towards the end of the year, and I caught COVID again, and the flu. And I'm just like,
Is this in 2020, 2021 or two?
three,
Because, it was
20,
kind of going 23. Okay.
yeah, yeah. It was like 2020, no, 20. See, I always get mixed up on the years, because everything happens so quickly. Because I wasn't even in witchcraft for that long. But in my
Right. So
head,
did you have like any religious background
yes,
prior to this?
I did.
So you
I
did.
did.
Okay.
Yeah, I had always believed in God. I was raised as a Jehovah Witness,
Okay.
but as I became an adult, I just chose to, I just chose to call myself a Christian and, just try to navigate through life. I never really like seek God out, but I just knew that he was real. I
Hmm.
knew he was real, and that was, that was the extent of my relationship with God.
Okay. So, what do you think attracted you at that point in your life? I know you said you had an interest, like as you were kind of growing up with the supernatural and the amazing powers, but what was it that, like, you got into this clubhouse, but what was it that kind of drew you in at that point in your life? Because you're an adult now, you have children at that point.
Mhm.
And was your family aware of like this going on? And how did they adjust to this new experience?
Honestly, no. They knew that like I wore crystals and stuff, but that was pretty much it. I had a whole altar in my house and down in my office, and they didn't even. I hid it pretty well because it's weird because it's like that it's not right, but you're doing it. Like it's hard to explain that part of it. Like I guess I felt somewhat of ashamed or conviction. Maybe that's what it is. But my family really didn't know what I was doing. Did they answer your question? I can't remember
Yeah,
what the
yeah. No, that definitely answered my question about did your family know? What was it that you think drew you into that at that point in your life?
Hey, so when COVID happened, like 2020, 2021, I had a lot of time on my hands, like everybody else in the world. Clubhouse was available. And so, I'm learning Clubhouse. You have to be invited, at this time you had to be invited and stuff. And so I was just looking at the rooms, just trying to get familiar with what was on the platform. And I saw all of these spiritual groups. And during this time, my husband had lost his grandfather, and I was close to him. He helped me to feel like a sense of a place in the family for my husband's family. And so when he passed, I wasn't allowed to see him before he passed. And so that kind of hit me a little hard. And then my aunt, who pretty much, helped my mom, when I was a baby, she passed too. And I was in a really, really dark place. And I was grieving, and I came across this room, and I was just drawn to it. So I was sitting in the little audience, and I would listen, and people were getting readings. And I'm like, "Ooh, I would like to get a reading." And so I would raise my hand because it was only audio, and I would raise my hand, and everybody would get picked but me. So I was like, okay, so that's weird. So I came back again, another day, and I raised my hand, and I didn't get picked. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this one more time, because I really want to do this. It looks cool. And maybe I could, figure something out. So I go there on the third day, and I raise my hand, and I get pulled into another room to do a reading. And in the room, she's like, like you had a big loss, and your grandfather is here, and he says that you're doing great, and blah 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 blah. And I lost it, because nobody knew that he had passed because I didn't share my personal Instagram on Clubhouse or nothing. So it was like, how would she have known unless it was true? Like this really came from my husband's grandfather. And so yeah, like that's all it took. I was in after that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that makes sense, in that place of grief and hearing this, how that could quickly cause a connection to something. Now, so you had an altar in your house.
Yeah.
Like, tell me a little bit about, like, what does that mean? And, like, what was that used for?
So the altar, I get, well, it's for like your ancestors. And so I was still learning about it, but I asked my grandmother, I asked family for pictures, of old family pictures, and I put them on my altar. And I would have me and my kids, we would put food on the altar. We would keep it clean, and I would do my spell work on the altar and, stuff like that. And now that I say this like out loud, I'm like,
well, no, this is not a place where there is shame. This is, I appreciate you sharing because there may be somebody who's listening who is struggling with either being in witchcraft or into some spiritual things that are causing them potential harm. I mean, here you are, you're just sharing how sick you got during that time too. Do you connect the two of how this was impacting you physically?
I didn't at the time, but once I started to get out of it and I saw how aggressive like things started to happen because I was trying to get out, that's when I put two and two together. I had we, and I say like my kids, my husband and I, we had encounters with demons. Like they were like in our house. My daughter saw outside on our at the bottom of our deck. My husband had to go out and pray and, protect our entire, house. Like these things, is real. And, you really don't know how real it truly is until you find yourself in it. And when I got delivered, and it's by the grace of my mother-in-law, God is good. I guess I had enough, and my daughter, because I was about to involve my daughter, my oldest daughter, because she was getting of age, and I was like, oh, I feel like you should be, you should start learning some things. And she looked at me like, if that's what you want me to do, and I'm like, well, is that not what you want to do? And she's like, if you want me to. And I never want to put my kids in a situation where it's going to hurt them, especially if it's coming from me, And so that moment convicted me to where I was like, well, just go ahead and go to your room. I'll be up there in a little bit. We'll talk. And I sat down, and that was like the first time I had talked to God for a while. And I was like, well, God, if this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, if this is not of God, then let me know, show me. Like, I want to know. And within like 3 days, the floodgates and the knowledge and the books and people and, it was just so much. Like, he was like, finally, and that's when I learned that God distastes witchcraft. He is not okay with us doing witchcraft. And he talks about that in his word, that he does not want us dabbling with witchcraft or with people who do it. So,
Right. Wow. So you're praying, God, you're kind of in a way like surrendering whatever your will is, like reveal to me because that's my heart. And then he answered with an overflow, it sounds like, and I just love that about God. In my own story, there was this point where I recognized I couldn't keep doing this anymore the way I'm doing it. It wasn't working. Like I wasn't getting out of it what I was hoping for. And I just was like, I'll do whatever it is that you want from me. And he answers. Like, so, if you are sitting in a dark place, even if it's not involved in witchcraft, but your life just feels like it's not what you thought it was going to be, you took this path thinking like maybe it was going to get you what you were looking for and it's not working out, just take a moment and ask God. I mean, what do you have to lose?
right.
Right?
Right.
That's what I was like. I was like, and God was like, oh, girl, you're
Finally.
stubborn. Like, finally, exactly. Finally, you're asking me. And he started to help me like walk out this whole new path. What was it when you asked that and you had all these people? Like, how did he start delivering you out of something that obviously had such a foothold, not just in your own life? And this is like a short period of time, right? But it's impacting your family, your husband, like your household. You have demons. How do you even start walking a new path?
That's a good question. Well, the way that he like God started to reveal things with TikTok, like because that's where I was, he meets you where you are. And so social media was my thing. It is my thing. This is the era that we're in. And so every time I open up my phone to TikTok, there's something about God and and witchcraft. Like, it was crazy. Like, if I was to open up my TikTok now, I wouldn't see that. But then every time I opened up my phone, it was something about God and not liking witchcraft and all of these things. Then I went to my mother-in-law's house and we're just talking, and I had this infatuation with mermaids. I believed I was a mermaid. You couldn't tell me anything else. And she was like, God told me to let you know that Mama Waters is a deity. And I was like, well, first of all, how do you even know about that? That's a mermaid, but it is an Orisha and an African deity. And so I was like, well, I'm going back and forth because I'm like, how dare you talk about my mermaids? Like, what's going on here? So I was like, well, just put a pin in that because, like, like, you can't take everything from me, And he revealed to me how mermaids are real and how they were created and how that's not of God. So again, I'm like being convicted again, and then I'm sitting there with a book and I just opened the book, just open the book. If I was I tried to find that page and I still can't find that. But I opened up the book and it was a section where it was from the verse in the Bible. This was not the Bible, but it talked about and it listed all of the things that God distastes, and witchcraft and spell work and divination and readings, all of that stuff. And I'm just like, okay, well then that's it. That's it. Like this is like a whole nother level. I'm not doing this on purpose, like this is really random. And so that's when I gave up mermaids. I gave up my altar. I gave up all of that, and I pledged my life to God. And yeah.
So giving up something, right, can be really hard. Letting go, like, I know for me, I'll be like, I'll let that go. Maybe I'll take it back,
Yeah.
And did you have any of that? Or was it like, I am delivered and you were able to turn totally from it and take a different direction?
Well, when it came to the mermaids, I let that go. I with really no struggle. I feel like feel like Satan did more work trying to get me to go back